This is the elevated ATG lunge. We're going to be doing this on a really high object like a bench to start off with, and then ideally we'll be working our way down as things become more pain-free for the range of motion we're after. We're going to be popping one leg up on top of the bench, and then from here this back leg is going to be coming backwards. How far this back leg is going to be will be based on what happens when we go for our first lunge. You may find that you need that one lunge to kind of set where the back leg needs to be, because it might be a little bit different every time depending on the mobility and kind of pain and other things. This front leg, ideally we want to keep our heel pushed down, our toes pushed down as best as possible. You may find when you get to the end range of motion that your heel starts to lift up. If you find that your heel starts to lift up, we may need to be on a higher object. So from here, back leg is going to stay nice and straight, and then we're going to lunge down over this front leg. Allow yourself to come up onto the toes on this back leg, that's not a problem, but we really want to keep this front leg nice and down. We're aiming to get our hamstring to touch our calf and our heel to come as close to our bum as possible. For some people you may be able to close that gap a lot, for others you may not be able to close that gap much, whether that's due to pain, mobility or muscle mass. If someone's got a lot more muscle mass, they'll find that obviously their calf runs into the hamstring and they just can't get that gap very closed. But from here, we're going to be up nice and tall, coming over the front, and because we're on this elevated position, we'll notice that it's a much less resistance than if I was to do this kind of movement down on the floor. But try and get this knee nice and far over our toes without that heel coming up, and try and get that gap closed on that front leg. To progress that, as that feels really easy and comfortable, we make it lower and lower and lower, and that's going to be a lot more pressure going through that quad, a lot more mobility required, and ultimately getting you back into a more functional position.